Nigeria suffered a spate of terror bombings over the last few months. Let's head over to Opeyemi Agbaje, CEO of Resource and Trust Company, about the nature and the extent of the threat to Nigeria as a company. Thanks so much for your time, as always, Opeyemi. I think at the moment, authorities are trying to weigh up just how much of an insecurity threat Nigeria is facing as a country. How big is the problem?
Well, I think it's bigger, clearly, than the authorities initially suspected, I would say. We have a porous northern border on which we have, across which we have people of the same ethnic group, religion, easily indistinguishable from the typical northern Hausa Fulani in Niger and Chad and those places. It is also possible that the threats in infiltration from Al-Qaeda in the Middle East and in the Maghreb and all of that could easily come in through there. We have problems in Jos of a ethnic nature between the natives and the settlers who are Hausa Fulani. Across the country, I think there's crime and insecurity, which is a law enforcement issue. But beyond that, there's a spate of kidnapping, essentially centered around the southeast and the south. And of course, we add all of this Boko Haram that we've been talking about and the bombing. So, yeah, there's a lot of work for the security people in terms of ensuring Nigeria's security.
Let's talk about Boko Haram, because obviously they've claimed responsibility for the bombings on the UN, and they were also responsible for the bombings on the police headquarters that really shook the country's sense of insecurity. People are saying it's very simplistic to say Boko Haram is an Islamist sect. What they are people who are dealing with issues of poverty, joblessness, and marginalization. In other words, the insecurity threats are now being compounded by the economic conditions in the country. How do you feel about that argument?
I think there's validity to the point. The poverty in northern Nigeria, particularly in the northeast, has made that region fertile ground for the kind of recruitment and the kind of propaganda that Boko Haram espouses. But I think Boko Haram's essence is also a bit almost to be in denial, denying the Islamic content of what Boko Haram advocates. It may be a wrong interpretation of Islam, but the attraction for those the organization recruits is that the reason they are poor, the reason they are in their state is because they have not followed the laws of God. And that if the society was ordered around Islamic principles, then you'll be okay, you'll be well. Right. And that is why they reject Western education and all of that.
Let's take some of those religious dogmatic issues out of the equation and focus purely on what the government tangibly can do. The economy is growing at 7.8%. That figure is expected to rise significantly in the coming years. But as the economy grows, is it trickling down to the base? Do people tangibly feel this growth?
Certainly not, and that is where the real problem exists. The structure of the Nigerian economy and political system so far denies the benefit of growth to the ordinary people. And it's not just a northeast or a Boko Haram issue. That statement is true across the country. It's just like I said, that there are extremes of those type of poverty in some regions and some ideology, fundamentalist ideology, that then takes over. But poverty across the country, because of this, for two reasons, like I said, the structure of the economy, dependency on oil, an oil sector that is based only on crude exports. It doesn't create jobs because we have not extended the value chain to refining, petrochemicals, and all of those other things that can create jobs. On the other hand, the political system is tuned towards the interests of the elite, and that's the reality. So we have a National Assembly that is overpaid, a political elite that is a bit wasteful in terms of spending, and all of that in the context in which all of those benefits of growth stay at the top or somewhere near the middle.
So, Opeyemi, obviously, we're seeing a lot of violence right now orchestrated by Boko Haram and many disaffected youth from the north. But of course, it comes on the back of the kinds of violence we've seen in the Niger Delta, which reinforces the socio-economic argument of the kinds of roots that are the cause of violence in Nigeria. This is all happening in an era of democracy. The president and the former administrators have been focused on the Niger Delta. Now they need to really extend the perspective beyond there. What sort of things do they need to do to tackle the insecurity issue as it's caused by some of the socio-economic issues?
That's the point I make. It's a Nigerian issue. The Niger Delta people reacted because they felt this oil is our own. And therefore, we have a claim to it, and you cannot be spending it without us. In the north, particularly the northeast, the dimensions of the problem include education. In fact, for me, the critical issue is education. We have this archaic, what is called the Al-Majiri system that ensures that millions of young men don't go to formal education. They are essentially abandoned in the hands of Islamic priests, and they grow up without parental care, without a decent education, essentially often used as beggars to get arms. All of those social contexts ensures that those people are ready recruits for violence, even before now of a political nature. They're used by thugs, by politicians, and they can now be easily recruited. Of course, there's the added problem of unemployment, severe unemployment and poverty. If you put all those together and put together some young, ill-educated or uneducated people, it's a recipe for disaster. Right. It's also the same thing, except that it's to a lesser extent in other parts of the country. Okay. In the south, you tend to have a better educated people, and that's what mitigates the effect of all of this.
All right, we're going to try to calibrate the broader impact on business now that there's a heightened sense of insecurity. Thanks for your time, Opeyemi Agbaje, who's the CEO of Resource and Trust Company.